We are here because we want to meet as many investors as we possibly can. Quest does a great job at putting people here at the event. This event, I think, is great for first-time borrowers, first-time investors, and experienced investors. This event is great for finding funds that could fit their investment needs. I get a lot of business from the Quest event. I talk to people, I network with people, and it actually becomes business after the event.
Yes, the Quest Expo. What a good time. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us in another edition of our Self-Directed IRA Saturday. My name is Andrea Chacin, and I'm an IRA specialist here at Quest, joining you guys from Houston. It was sunny and bright this morning. Now it's a little cloudy, but nonetheless excited that it's Saturday and super excited about today's webinar. We have Vivian Yip. She's going to be talking to us about the secret to cash flow rentals, and I can't wait. I'm super excited about it. Before we bring her on, though, let's go through some housekeeping. First, as a disclaimer, always remember Questar's company does not provide tax, legal, investment, or structuring advice or endorse any products, services, or investments of any type. All information and materials shared here today are for educational purposes only, and all parties are always encouraged to consult with their attorneys, accountants, and financial advisors before entering into any type of investments. Now, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, let's go over what a self-directed IRA is, and because it can be confusing for some people, and to be fair to them, different custodians use the term self-directed for different purposes. We here at Quest use it for two main reasons. One of them is the fact that you'll be choosing your own investments and bring them to us to invest your IRA. And two, that the investment's going to be strictly private, so nothing traded in the stock market. But really, an IRA is an IRA everywhere you go. It has the same contribution limits, the same rules, the same restrictions, the same distribution rules, etc. So it's the same account. The difference is going to be what you can invest in. Here at Quest, here's some of the examples that our clients invest their accounts in. Real estate, of course, the main one. Residential and commercial property, fix and flips, improved land. Those are some examples. Of course, private entities as well, LLCs, cryptocurrencies, LPs, etc. Some trusts as well, some real estate funds. And then promissory notes is another big one. These are basically just loans, whether secured or unsecured, mortgages, or convertible notes. So that's just to kind of give you a few examples, but then of course you can pretty much invest your IRA in anything and everything that is not traded in the stock market. If you have any questions, if you'd like to have a consultation with one of us IRA specialists, we'll be happy to talk to you, to walk you through the processes, the fees, so you kind of have a better picture of it. Or if you have any question at all, you'd like to have a conversation with us, we'd love to chat to you about self-directed IRAs. And then last but not least, before we bring our speaker up, we're super excited, and we're fast approaching our Quest Expo this year. Super excited about it. It's going to be upwards of 800 people. The convention center alone is beautiful. Lots and lots of networking, lots and lots of education. And lots of fun. So make sure you grab your ticket. We have this code right now where you can grab both general admissions and VIP tickets for half the price. So use code EXPO50. Don't wait too long, because we don't want you to be left out when we sell out. So please go ahead and get your tickets as soon as you can, because they're going fast. But with that, and without further ado, let's bring up our speaker today. Hi, Vivian. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on here. We'll bring up your slides as well, and whenever you're ready, go ahead, take it away.
Sure.
Who's wondering about my hair? I did not expect to lose my hair. I was at the height of my career and the darkest place I've ever felt in my life. And I would come home and I said, that's it. By 2022 and 2023, I am going to quit my job and I'm going to live a life on my own terms. I am going to quit my job and I'm going to live a life on my own terms. We flipped our first house. We only made $9,000, but our best profit was more than $500,000. We're building those business-to-business relationships and, delivering a value that we can all be very proud of.
Vivian Yip is visiting us from Austin.
So everyone, without further ado, welcome Vivian Yip.
And I created this brand because I knew how much work it is to make the phone calls, to do the follow-ups, to do all that stuff. And I thought, well, if I'm doing it for myself, why can't I do it for other people that are busy as well? Get to 80% confidence and then JFDI. What is that? Just do it.
Welcome to my masterclass. Today, I'm really excited to share with you my wealth building strategy, which is in midterm rentals. And I don't normally share all the details in this class with the public. So this is an honor to be here to share all the lessons that I've learned over the last few years. But first, let me kind of start with a conversation that changed my life. When I was 25 years old, I read a book that impacted me. It was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And looking back, I realized how dumb was I because I never really implemented the strategies that I learned from reading in that book until I met a gentleman at the airport. In 2017, I met this guy who was on his way to somewhere on vacation, and he was wearing Bermuda shorts and a flowery tropical t-shirt. And he sat next to me and asked to borrow my iPhone charger. And in true Vivian fashion, I struck up a conversation with him, and I said, "I'm curious, what do you do for a living? You look like you are on your way on vacation." And he said, "Oh, I'm heading to Aruba for a month." And I was like, "Wow, that's amazing. How do you head to Aruba for a month? I only get 2 weeks of vacation at my corporate job." And he said, "Well, I'm kind of over it because I was just in Bermuda for a month prior to that." At that point, I was like, "Okay, so tell me, what do you actually do?" And he explained to me that him and his wife invested in real estate, specifically in a small hotel. And over time, they owner operated it, and they refinanced it and bought more and bought more. And now, many, many years later, they have a life where they could just do whatever they want. And they love this business because even if they're vacationing, people are still paying them and staying in their hotels. And I thought, gosh, that's what Robert Kiyosaki was talking about, is passive income and not trading time for money. So at this point in my life, I was working at Apple. I was 3 years into my career there. And I thought, well, is there more to life than this? Can I have this life of passive income? And that's when I started to research and figure out, what can I do that Robert Kiyosaki talked about. And that's when I started looking into real estate. So in 2017, my husband and I sat down and we thought, what is our life going to look like in 5 years? And we started putting the actions into place. And with his handyman skills and my analytical skills, we thought, let's do real estate. Everybody's doing it on HGTV. People are flipping houses. How hard can it be? And we just said, let's just do it and we'll figure it out along the way. And that's when I cashed out some of my Apple stocks. We bought our first investment, and we got addicted to working on designs and flipping houses, working with contractors. And within the first 6 years, in the first year, we flipped 6 houses. So in our 6th house, we were finally able to keep one property. And this property was in Round Rock, Texas. And it was an off-market deal that I found. And I thought, this might be the perfect property to have as a short-term rental. After all, when I was in high school, I took an internship at a hotel in Hong Kong, and I loved hospitality. And I never really was sure how I would get back into hospitality because I didn't want to go to hospitality school per se. But I thought maybe instead of trying to buy a hotel, I can buy a home and turn that into a short-term rental, and I can dive back into hospitality. So in July 2019, on our 6th flip, I renovated this property with the help of my husband, and we turned it into a very successful short-term rental. As you can see, we had 53 reviews and 4.91 stars, and it was a great property. And the reason why I thought it was a great property for short-term rentals was because it was only 18 minutes to downtown. There was no HOA in the neighborhood. There were no city restrictions. And it was a single family home with a yard. And I could see myself as a person with a family to stay in a property like this if I was visiting on vacation. That way I wouldn't have to be stuck in a hotel. So this boring suburban home close to a metroplex became a great property for midterm rentals. Sorry, short-term rentals. But as we all know, on March 16th, 2020, the world pretty much shut down. At that point in time, I was thinking, what am I going to do with my business? Because I'm hearing of all these other short-term rental operators that were having their reservations canceled by Airbnb. And I was only on Airbnb at this time. I had no other source of revenue. And I was terrified at how I was going to pay my mortgage if I had secured reservations and then Airbnb was canceling them. What was I going to do? So I started thinking outside the box. I called a friend of mine who was more experienced than I was in real estate. And I asked him, like, what do you think I should do next? Like, how do I prevent one company from controlling all my income? And he said, well, have you thought about travel nurses or maybe construction housing? And I thought, maybe that's interesting. Like, I never thought of it, but how could I be so dumb? When I relocated twice in my career, I also stayed in temporary housing. I thought, well, that is trying something different is better than not trying at all. So I snoozed my listing, and within 2 weeks, I was able to secure a reservation from a family moving from California, and they were building a home pretty close by, and they stayed for 3 months. They paid $3,800 per month for 3 months, and then after they left, I had a construction team come by, and they wanted to stay for 7 months, and because they negotiated the rate, they were willing to even do the lawn care. So just to put numbers in perspective, my mortgage was about $1,600, and rent at the time, long-term rent without any furniture, was also about $1,600 a month. And I was like more than doubling my income. So I thought, maybe this is a thing. Maybe this is how that I can cash flow with less work. So that's when I really started to dive into what midterm rentals are. So for those of you wondering, what is a midterm rental? Well, we've all heard of 1-year unfurnished properties, right? That's the standard landlord strategy for eons. And then we have short-term rentals, which was all the rage in the last 4 years. With the low interest rates and people traveling domestically during the pandemic, people were buying short-term rentals left and right. But today I want to talk to you about this secret middle child strategy, which is the 30-day stay where it's furnished and all utilities paid. So with midterm rentals and short-term rentals, it is in the hospitality business. So I want to remind you of that. And midterm rentals is an awesome strategy if you are looking to continue to invest in real estate but not sure how to cash flow, or you're an existing short-term rental operator and you want to do less work with the same asset. And with the right strategies in place, you can replace your W-2 income and cash flow in almost any market. My name is Vivian Yip. I'm the founder of corporaterentalsusa.com and a brand called Hestia. I am a 2-time Innovation Award winner at Apple, and I was a program manager at Apple where I was responsible for launching iPhones. Today, I have over 20 midterm rentals under operation in the Austin market and over 200 midterm rentals under the Hestia brand. And today, my husband and I have flipped over 30 properties in the last 6 years, and my passion is to help others live a life by design. So as I move on, I'm going to talk to you about who uses midterm rentals and why does it play such an important part in our society. So we have, first and foremost, insurance companies. A lot of people don't think about this, but you've probably had a friend who suffered water damage or a fire, or maybe they had mold issues in their home. And the insurance company will then cover the cost of the repairs. And then also there's a policy inside of your insurance that covers additional living expenses. That additional living expenses policy will cover you to move out of your home while your primary home is being repaired. So insurance companies uses midterm rentals all the time. There's also government contracts. I have a friend of mine who does tons of government contracts, and they are very, very lucrative if you know where to find them. And corporations as well. As I mentioned earlier, I relocated a couple of times, once with Tetra Pak from Toronto to Chicago, and then another time from Chicago to Austin for my job at Apple. Then there's also people remodeling a home. A lot of people are doing these mass remodels right now, and they're tearing their houses apart and making them modern and new again, or people that are building a home. There's also digital nomads. With the pandemic, a lot of people changed the way that they live and work, and many of them choose to not be tied down to any particular place, and they just travel as they see fit. There's also construction teams, travel medical professionals, academics, and interns. So for those of you that have been looking at midterm rentals, you probably think about travel nurses all the time. So I wanted to touch base on Furnish Finder for a moment here. FurnishFinder.com is a website that attracts traveling medical professionals to find temporary housing for when they travel on their temporary assignments. And I also looked into travel nurses for a while as well, but I wanted to share with you why it didn't really work for me. Here's some data directly from Furnish Finder, and this shows where the demand versus supply meets in terms of money. So if you look on the left side, this is the demand. So people using Furnish Finder and trying to find housing, 22.2% of those people on Furnish Finder are looking for housing that is between $1,200 and $1,600 a month. You have 24% that are looking for housing less than $1,200 per month. I don't know about where you live, but in Austin, $1,200 per month is going to rent you a furnished room. Then there's 31% of the population looking for housing that are willing to spend up to $2,400 a month, and 9.9% that's willing to spend between $2,400 and $2,800 per month. And finally, a very small subset of 12.2% are willing to spend more than $2,800 a month. On the flip side, the people that are renting their properties, the landlords or the hospitality hosts, most of them are not offering properties that are very inexpensive. So 17.1% is offering less than $1,200. We have between $1,200 and $1,600. Only 18% of landlords are offering that kind of space. We have 27.7% that are offering spaces in the up to $2,400 range. And then, of course, in the $2,400 to $2,800, there's only 11.6% that are offering there. But a lot of landlords are expecting $2,800 and up. So you can see there's a disconnect between the inventory that's being offered and the demand that's happening. In addition, I want you to look at what the booking window looks like in midterm rentals. This is just to level set what you think about midterm rentals. Many midterm rentals come last minute. This is a chart showing the lead time. So most of the requests are coming in between 30 days and 0 to 7 days. In fact, my personal experience, I get most of my requests in the 0 to 7 day range. I get a lot of same day requests as well. Coming from Furnish Finder, this is insights coming from the Midterm Rental Summit that happened last month in San Diego. Furnish Finder is catering to travel medical professionals. They usually book 34 days in advance. They stay for 93 days, which is pretty typical because nurse contracts are 13 weeks, which is 91 days. So a day before and a day afterwards makes this a perfect complement to what the data shows. And then most are traveling alone or with a partner. And 27% are coming with pets. So if you're looking at midterm rentals, this is data that's very interesting for the Furnish Finder midterm rental space. But why are midterm rentals important to talk about today? At Apple, one of our core values working there was a value called seeing around corners. And that's what it's the belief that you should be able to anticipate what's happening next. So we're seeing that short-term rentals are not only highly saturated, but they're also very regulated. There's tons of markets right now, like San Diego, like Henderson, Nevada, like Dallas, Texas, that are undergoing these regulation changes that are preventing from short-term rentals from operating anymore. Then there's also the fact that midterm rentals are more profitable than long-term rentals because you are adding value to the property with furniture, with utilities, and with maintenance. But what happens if midterm rentals then become saturated as well? So these are all the things that I would think about as I started growing my midterm rental business. But let's talk about some advantages and disadvantages. So first of all, midterm rentals have so many great advantages. I love that midterm rentals have higher quality clientele. When you think about short-term rentals in comparison, many short-term rental operators, they're coming in to celebrate and be festive with friends. They're drinking beer, they're hanging out around fire pits, they're throwing bags, they're playing beer pong, playing loud music. This is not the case at all with midterm rentals. We're often hosting higher quality clientele that just want to live and work while staying at your property. There's also lower turnover. So when it comes to midterm rentals, because we're hosting 30-day minimum stays, we're only cleaning the properties about every 30 days instead of every weekend or every other day like it is with short-term rentals. So you're not chasing cleaners, wondering if they're showing up, replenishing supplies like toilet paper, paper towel, laundry soap, all that kind of stuff. You also get higher occupancy. So again, they're not just staying for the weekends and your weekdays are empty. They're staying for a month or 2 months or even 6 months at a time. In the midterm rental space, there's no hotel occupancy tax in most cities. So far, I've only heard of one place in Florida where hotel occupancy taxes are applied to properties or applied to stays of 180 days and less. But for the most part, the general rule is there's no hotel occupancy tax on stays that are 30 days minimum. There's also no additional short-term rental insurance needed for most properties. In Texas, your standard property insurance applies as long as you're getting 30-day minimum leases. And then there's a lower cost of consumables. With midterm rental clients, you give them a reasonable starter amount of supplies, like 3 rolls of toilet paper for every toilet, couple rolls of paper towel, some laundry soap, some dish soap, and then that's it. Anytime they need to replenish, they're responsible for doing that on their own. So you're literally saving so much money. Have you guys seen the cost of toilet paper recently? It's insane. So you save a lot of money like that. But the most important thing about midterm rentals is the advantage of the freedom of time. I found that I was no longer needing to answer text messages all the time. My face wasn't buried in Airbnb's app all the time, answering the same questions over and over again. Like, how do I access the pool? How do I open the garage? How do I start the dishwasher? These things kind of go away once you start hosting midterm rental guests, and you'll find yourself way more present with your family and your friends. There are, however, some disadvantages. So some disadvantages, and are that you can have some tenancy risk. So this was something that I was really concerned about when I started in this space. So I consulted an eviction attorney here in the Austin market, and I asked him, what is the tenancy risk with midterm rentals? And he said, at the end of the day, the tenancy risk is the same as short-term rentals. Once they have access to your property, it's the same eviction process. So don't worry about that. So we devised a lease to help us prevent tenancy issues, at least in the court of law. Sometimes midterm rentals can have lower revenue compared to short-term rentals. There's definitely going to be more wear and tear. Your place is not going to be cleaned every weekend like short-term rentals, and people are sitting on your couch 7 days a week as opposed to just on the weekends. There's definitely going to be more screening and documentation, and most important is going to be needing a network of other people that have midterm rentals, because if someone's staying in your property for an extended period of time, you want to have a network of other operators that do what you do so that you can pivot your potential business to other people if you can't host a stay. But what did midterm rentals do for me, and why am I so passionate about midterm rentals? I want to explain to you really why I'm so passionate. So I had a 7-year career at Apple, and my career there was incredible. As I mentioned, I spent a lot of time in operations there. I worked in their supply chain, and I won awards, and an individual award and a team award. And we were responsible for launching iPhones and MacBooks and Macs and Beats. It was always moving pieces. It was always fun. It was very, very challenging. And as you can see in 2021 or 2020, the stock split. And that was like a celebratory moment for us at Apple because all of our stocks just like quadrupled. So it was really, really incredible career there until it wasn't. Right. I took a job in June of 2020 where myself and another individual, our team was responsible as control tower to be launching the iPhone through a pandemic. So if you guys remember, supply chain issues were at the top of newsstands, and it was no different at Apple. Every single day was a new challenge, a very difficult challenge, and we would pivot, solve the problem, have a new challenge, solve the problem. And at the end of the day, there were so many things that were out of my control, and it caused a ton of stress for me. In addition, as a mom of 2 kids, my kids were home. I had so much mom guilt. I felt like they had nowhere to go. I had no time to take care of them because I was glued to my computer all the time, working 18-hour days for 4 months straight. My house was a wreck. I had paid no attention to my husband. There was all these things that were coming at me at once. And honestly, it was the worst time in my life. And I was extremely, extremely stressed. But I felt really lucky. I felt lucky that I had already started looking into real estate and finding success there with my husband by flipping houses. And then we found more success by hosting these extended stays and knowing and understanding the short-term rental model. And I knew at that moment that my hair loss was a signal for me to pursue my own dreams as opposed to working for someone else, because working for someone else, although it was very lucrative and very challenging, it wasn't serving me anymore. And that's when I looked and said, this is time for me to pivot. But I wasn't sure how, and I needed money. So I sold that short-term rental that I showed you earlier, and I bought this place for $185,000, and I sold it for $348,000. And that put money in my pocket as well as some confidence to pursue my own dreams. And on January 2nd, I woke up after I started my medical leave. I started a 3-month medical leave so I could de-stress and figure out what I wanted to do next with my life. And I woke up, my hair was like, whatever was left of it, I had about 10% of my hair left. I woke up like Albert Einstein. And my husband's like, I think it's time for you to shave your head. And I looked at him and I said, I think so too. So we grabbed a stool and went into the master bathroom, and he pulled out his clippers, and row by row, he started clipping my hair and shaving it off. And I was really, really afraid to look in the mirror to see the monster that would be staring back at me, because I wasn't sure what I would look like with a bald head, completely bald. But when I looked up in the mirror, I actually ended up smiling, because it's not often that you get to see yourself with a bald head and realize that you actually have a perfectly egg-shaped head. So I would say that I was really surprised and delighted by this, that my head was, really nice, and I felt very grateful for that. So beginning in January in 2021, without having to deal with hair anymore, I had more freedom of time. I decided to focus on growing my real estate business and growing my net worth. So during my time off, I was able to find a ton of off-market deals. We were able to buy them and turn them into midterm rentals. And we were able to 7x our net worth that year in 1 year. So I bought more real estate, furnished them, turned them into midterm rentals, and created a semi-passive cash flow of over $120,000 a year. But 6 units was not enough, because people came to know that I was working and dealing in extended stays, and people kept asking me for more inventory, and I didn't know how to have more inventory because I had run out of money at this point, but I had a ton of cash flow. So I ended up networking and creating a network of people that do the same thing that I do. But then I also had another problem. Like, where do I advertise my properties other than Airbnb because I knew the risk of being only in one income stream with Airbnb. What do I do? And I knew that Furnish Finder wasn't really a great fit for me because if you remember, my desired rent is $3,800 a month, and most people on Furnish Finder was willing to pay less than that at less than $2,800 a month. And you also saw the data earlier that most people on Furnish Finder, they're traveling with 1.6 people, and my capacity was at 6 people. So I had to start thinking like, what is the strategy here? How do I get my places booked other than Airbnb? And I started looking at branding my homes. Why was branding important is because extended stays, they do have a place on Airbnb, but not every Airbnb will make a great midterm rental because my properties had, great sleep experiences, single family homes. I wanted to brand it so that people immediately would have free rent in their head so that they know, oh, Hestia, it's a single family home. They do extended stay rentals and they're great for extended stays and great for families. And they work with insurance companies. So that's me grabbing free rent in your head. When you think of Hestia, that's what I want you to think of. But what does Hestia actually mean? First of all, Hestia is the Greek goddess of hospitality, hearth, and home, which I thought was a great representation of what I wanted the brand to be. Great hospitality and a great home. But I had to look at what Hestia meant in terms of the field of brands out there. So if we look at the high-priced short-term rental market, we have Vacasa, we have Wanderjawn, Evolve, and that's great, but those are too expensive for people that are staying for 30 days, and they're not going to want the special things that come with short-term rentals like the ping pong tables and the billiard tables, right? Then we have Furnish Finder in June, right? Then the midterm rental lower price space, and we recall that Furnish Finder is often housing travel nurses with lower budgets, and then there's June that's doing lower priced rent by the rooms. And then in the midterm rental medium price area, we had Landing and Blue Ground. And while those are great companies, I found that Hestia differentiated in one major way is that Hestia is in the single family townhome and duplex space. So I thought that that was a huge differentiation and I was on to something. So with that said, Hestia is a brand strategy where we qualify our homes to be stylish, ultra clean, and well-maintained in the single-family home space. Hestia homes are fully furnished with exceptional hospitality, luxury sleep experiences, dedicated workspaces, high-speed internet, easy parking, and in-home laundry. And you can find Hestia all over Airbnb as well as on corporaterentalsusa.com. And there's so many individual hosts that are trying to capture the attention of insurance companies, of businesses. Well, what if we take the Hestia brand as a strategy and take Hestia to the businesses that use midterm rentals? So these are the companies that are currently using Hestia homes. And we have the top line here and the second line here are companies that are using the insurance model here. And then below is the corporate housing companies that are housing their employees in Hestia homes. And over the last year and a half, we've been building these relationships day by day by bringing Hestia homes to their attention, right? When you have over 200 properties, you get their attention a lot faster than if you have just one property. And they know what to predict and what to think about when they think about Hestia because they know that if they need a single family home, they need a premium property. Oh, let's see if Hestia has something. And we nurture these businesses by problem solving, and they see us as trusted partners as well. So I know you as investors out here are thinking, well, how does this all apply to me? Because you're probably thinking, well, how do I keep buying rental properties and how do I make them cash flow or how do I ensure that they cash flow? So the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about researching the midterm rental market. And I'm going to forewarn you, don't suffer from analysis paralysis. Just hyper-focus. If you're looking for real estate, just hyper-focus on 1 to 3 areas and study them hard because then you'll be able to find a good deal because you specialized. Get to 80% confidence and then JFDI. You will figure out the rest and join my Facebook group. Midterm Rental Wealth, where you can network with other midterm rental operators. We have everywhere from 0 midterm rentals all the way to 150 midterm rentals in this group. So don't listen to me, listen to everybody else. There's a lot of people in this great group, about 3,000 of us now, that all do this strategy. So there's ways to research your midterm rental market. My favorite way is Price Labs, but there's also Furnish Finder. There's, depending on the size of the property you want to buy or invest in. There's Airbnb or VRBO. There's Zillow. There's the MLS. And also a trusted realtor. If you need a realtor in your market, I've been training realtors with my brand new course. It's free to all realtors to learn about how to be an expert in the midterm rental market. And then combining these, the information from these 5 places, you can create a holistic view of the MTR competitive landscape. But if you want to look at the way, my favorite way of doing it, I love Price Labs. And I get asked this question every single day. Will my property make a good midterm rental? So scan this QR code and you will get the YouTube link for when I worked with Price Labs on this very special training where we dive in deep into what makes a good midterm rental. Things like, do EV chargers matter? Do pools matter? Does a pet policy matter? How much are people paying for cleaning? What are their cancellation policies? There's so many different ways you can slice and dice with Price Labs, way deeper than you can get with other tools out there. And as you're thinking about whether or not midterm rentals are right for you, and you're teeter-tottering on whether you want to invest in real estate, I want to remind you that someone with half of your IQ is making 10 times as you because they aren't smart enough to doubt themselves. So midterm rentals, there is an art and a science. So with the art side, I want to remind you that midterm rentals are different from short-term rentals. There are going to be things that you want in your midterm rental that differ from your typical short-term rental. Things like dressers, high-quality furniture, having a dedicated workspace, nightstands on both sides of the bed. This one's important, especially for me, because I am one of 8 million people in America that have sleep apnea, and I sleep with a CPAP machine. So I would hate to stay somewhere with an extended stay where I couldn't have my CPAP next to me. Focus on amazing sleep experiences. A lot of short-term rentals have crappy beds. If you focus on amazing sleep experiences, people will come back or recommend your place because they're committing to an extended stay, not just for a weekend. Have enough seating for a family and the capacity that you can host in your property. Have access to laundry rooms and easy parking. I cannot emphasize this enough. I can't tell you how many places I've stayed at on Airbnb where I can't even access the laundry room or the garage is full of the owner's stuff. So design with the client in mind, right? For me, I want the client that wants a whole home, that would love an extended stay that is high quality. That's who I'm trying to attract. The science is careful management of your calendar is crucial to midterm rental success. As we saw earlier, the lead time on midterm rentals is very, very short. If you're focusing on insurance days, know that people don't plan on setting their house on fire. People don't plan on water damage or mold issues. And when they need to leave their house or move out of their home, it's often a very last minute thing. So you want to make sure that you're leaving your calendar open so that people can book your place very easily. Because as soon as you have a booking 2 weeks out or 3 months out, that erases your chances of being able to capture that booking. So you can use a tool like Price Labs to maximize your occupancy and revenue. I have a training for that as well. And then use midterm rentals as your main strategy and then fill in the gaps with short-term rentals where it's legal. Because again, those short-term rentals in the future are going to block your calendar and remove you from being able to host these extended stays. This is just an example of your typical short-term rental calendar. You know, this person has 2 weekends blocked already. So if someone wanted to book on Airbnb from April 1st to April 30th, they're going to be completely overlooked. So you're probably wondering, how do you work with Vivian Yip? I've helped thousands of real estate investors with their midterm rental business. There's 4 ways you can work with me. Number 1, you can leverage our Hestia brand. It is a membership program. We certify all Hestia homes. You need to be a professional host to be part of this program with at least 1 year of experience and superhost status. And then we send an inspector to your home to make sure that your property is of the quality that we want as part of our business. Number two, if you're in the Austin market and you don't want to touch anything to do with midterm rentals, but you just want the cash flow, we do property management and it's full service through the Hestia 360 program. Number three, maybe you are interested in learning about midterm rentals deeper than what we've learned here. I have a couple of courses. One is a $197 boot camp where you can learn how to do midterm rentals without owning any properties. And I'm going to show you how to find that property, how to furnish it in 48 hours, and start running your midterm rental as soon as possible. Or if you are looking to pivot from short-term rentals into midterm rentals, I have a deeper, more in-depth course that will go through everything you need to know about midterm rentals, including what the market is looking for if you're trying to buy your next midterm rental. And number four, I am a realtor as well, so I can help you buy your midterm rental. And I have a huge network of other realtors as well that specialize in midterm rentals in their market. And these are some of my students that have taken my courses. They've had nothing but positive feedback. And, we have Twana here that is a beginner. And then we have Robin here that's a long-term rental operator. And she's been doing long-term rentals for years. And she got exceptional knowledge from how we handle leases in the midterm rental space. So I know that I didn't plan to lose my hair. And I didn't plan to quit my job as soon as I did. I actually exceeded quitting my job 2 years in advance of what my original plan was. But the signal was clear for me that my strategy in life would be would be real estate. And knowing that I wanted to be in hospitality again, and I have a love for real estate, I now know that my hair loss didn't happen to me, that it happened to me because it's allowed me to combine my love of real estate and hospitality combined. So you can learn more about me and my business at vivianyip.com. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Vivian. That was awesome. Really good information. Really good quotes there. I love it. I loved it. Thank you very much for being here. If you guys have any questions for Vivian, please, now's the time to post them in the chat. I actually got some internal questions that came in for you, Vivian. So where are the Hestia properties mostly located?
Our inventory is very strong in the Texas market right now. We continue to grow that every day, but we have a lot of demand for people wanting Hestia to grow to California, to Florida, to Georgia. So we wanted to ensure that we get our core markets right first, and then we could grow the brand pretty quickly if we wanted to. I think it's just a matter of getting the certification process going and qualifying the homeowners.
Right, excellent. And another question, do you assist with finding or with financing?
Do I assist with financing in terms of purchasing
the properties?
So I do have a vested interest in Heritage Oaks lending here in the Austin market. We lend in 13 states, but what I found was a lot of mortgage brokers don't understand the midterm rental market. So if you want to work with me, you can use Heritage Oaks Lending. You can send me a message on my website, vivianyip.com, and I can put you in touch with my husband, who is the owner of that company. And then if you are outside of those 13 markets where we serve mortgages, you can contact the Dolan Group. Paul Dolan does underwrite midterm rentals over 50 states.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And then how do we find your realtor course, the one you mentioned that is free?
You can find that on YouTube or even on vivianyip.com. Vivianyip.com, there's a tab that says Learn From Me, and you'll find information on how to register for that. My goal there is to help realtors become the expert in their market. The examples that I show there is that last year, I was able to do $6 million in sales just in midterm rentals. The secret is that that's not a lot of money, but I wasn't even licensed last year, right? I did 6 million. I gave it all to my husband to handle. But 37% of applications for mortgages are coming in from investors. A lot of primary home buyers are not purchasing right now because they're waiting for the interest rates to drop. But as investors, we know that once the interest rates drop, the value starts going up. So this is a great strategy for investors to buy midterm rentals, cash flowing assets.
Yes, very true. We have a couple comments and a question that came through. Actually, a question from Ashleen that was answered, but just so for the rest of you to know, will this be sent out as a recording after the seminar? I believe if you signed up for it, you will get a recording, but then you can also, this will also be posted on our YouTube channel right after we're done here. So thank you, Ashleen. And then we have Ronnie Letman saying, excellent presentation.
Thank you, Ronnie.
And then Ashleen asks, what are the best websites to find insurance clients?
So if you have a single property, you can load them into a couple websites. One is called alesolutions.com. There's another one called CRS Temporary Housing. Then there's Sedgwick as well. And then the final one is Temporary Housing Directory. So those are the four major ones that you can input your property. But some people find that they're not getting any phone calls because, again, you can't really forecast when the next flood or fire is going to happen. So it's just it's like a lottery game in there.
Excellent. Thank you. And then we have, what's the name of the Facebook group for MTRs that you mentioned?
It's called Midterm Rental Wealth with Vivian Yip.
Excellent. Thank you, Annie. That's all we've got for now. Thanks again, Vivian, for coming on here. I hope we get to have you in the future again. Thank you, everybody, for joining today, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks so much.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.